Good morning, I'm Rob Kalana with Front Range Anglers. This morning we're going to walk through tying a bellyache minnow. It was a pattern that was originally tied to imitate shad for wipers, but it's really been one of the most versatile streamer patterns I've used. Depending on what color you tie it in, size, you can use it for anything freshwater, warm water or cold water, or salt water as well because of the hook we tie it on. So well, I'll stop yakking and start tying. Alright, the hook I like to use for this is a Gamakatsu SE15. It's a saltwater rated hook, but extremely sharp, light wire, so it flips over easy. That's one of the characteristics of this fly that makes it successful and keeps it from snagging up. I prefer to tie this anywhere from size 8 to 1/0. Alright, I like to use Lagarton extra strong thread. Tends to work very well for this. This is the 75 denier, which is very sufficient for this. We'll start by just laying a thread base down. Don't try to break it. One of the main pieces of function on this is one of these small tungsten bodies, the rib tungsten bodies. They're kind of a half football shaped deal. And by mounting it this direction on the hook, we're going to enable the hook to flip over and ride hook up. It keeps it from hooking up on the bottom. A little more positive hook up for fish as well, which is always a good thing. And I'm just going to come over the ribs on this, make it very nice to bind down to a hook. It actually gives you a place to kind of grab the body and tighten it to the hook shank so it won't go anywhere. Alright, this is a size 2 hook, so I'm going to use the medium-sized bodies on this. Anything bigger, I might use a large, or if I had an application where I wanted to get this very deep, I might use a large. Okay, we'll start by tying the belly of this fly, which will end up being the top of the hook shank here. On 90% of the patterns, I tend to start off with the ice dub and pearl. The color combinations are endless with this, depending on what you're trying to imitate or color combinations you want, but ice dub pearl generally starts off being the first ingredient on most of them for me. What I'll do first here is just take a long hank out of the bag. I'm not going to dub this up. I'm going to leave it pretty straight. I'm going to try to keep that hank intact. I'm going to let it go ahead and come back maybe a shank and a half length back from the body. I'm going to tie it in just behind that tungsten body. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over the remaining ice dub forward. You notice that I just came with loose wraps, nice open wraps. Then I'm going to do the same thing. Once you get it down, you can kind of come forward and back over it again. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and take the same color, but I'm going to dub it. Just going to get some on there. I'm going to dub it pretty liberally. Okay, this is a very important second step. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to come back through the dub body with the thread. And the reason that I'll do this is because of the way that the fly is going to ride. It's going to ride upside down. This is going to be the bottom of the fly. So particularly if you're fishing this on the bottom of a river or a lake, what's going to get ground off is this dubbing. So by laying that base layer, coming over with the dub layer, and then coming back over with the gel spun thread, this provides good insurance and provides some longevity to the fly. Alright, so now that we've come back through the dub body with the gel spun thread, we're going to begin dubbing the second layer. And I'm going to start again with just ice dub pearl. And I'm going to come to about the halfway portion of this. Okay, now that we've kind of dubbed up to the halfway point of the body with the pearl again, we're going to start using the second color, or sometimes a third color, coming forward. And again, you've got really the color combinations are endless. What we're going to do here is a black minnow, what we kind of call the Rapala. So it's going to be pearl in the back. We're going to come in with some silver now. Okay, after we get the half hitch in, what I'm going to do is start blending the dubbing, and it's going to give you a much more gentle transition from colors. It looks a lot more just kind of natural. So We're going from pearl to silver into a black. And okay, I'm going to use, we're going to talk about putting the top of the fly on now, which is done with a rabbit strip. Just want to use a standard zonker strip. I've cut off, I'll show you the hide here, about 2 inches of strip here. And you don't have to worry about exact length on this. To conserve material, you probably want to cut it a little bit shorter, but for example purposes, I cut one pretty generous here. Alright, now we pop the hook from the vise. We're going to take the rabbit and we're going to pierce it. Try to center that. And now we are going to take and flip the hook over and reinsert it into the vise. Okay, now what we're going to do, hook is locked in, the hide is locked in. We're going to identify where we want to tie it in, the front of the fly. We're going to go over with a loose wrap, and the reason that we wrap that loose is so we don't roll the hide at all and expose it. And we'll put a couple securing wraps over it, and then I'll start cranking with some pressure as close as possible to the thread wraps. Last step here is just to build up a little bit of a head, and what we're doing is just putting a base down, a foundation down for the eyes that we're going to pop on here next. So I'm just going to build up a little bit of a head and we'll whip finish. We're going to come and just kind of color coordinate the head. I'm just going to use a Sharpie. And all this is going to be coated with epoxy or something similar, so you could certainly change threads as you came towards the front of the fly, but this is a little more efficient. Okay. We're going to pop the eyes on this here. I'm just going to use an adhesive 3D eye. I'm just going to put one eye on each side of the fly. Try to make sure that they're equal in how they sit. I'm just going to use some hard as hole and put a protective layer over the thread, anchor those eyes. Alright, so when you have the head cement or epoxy layered on, this is what you're going to end up with. You can certainly come back with some scissors now, trim it down a little bit more. I think I'm going to cut a little bit more of this off. So this kind of makes some. And again, all this stuff is going to sweep back when it gets wet, so you don't have to get crazy about trimming it into the exact shape, because it's all going to melt into the body. We have this critter tied up to a string. You can see how it rides through the water. Hook up, stays very snag free, and gets down quickly. So you can see the type of profile that this fly is going to leave even after it's wet. It has a nice round belly. Like I said, this originated as a shad pattern for wiper, but since then caught basically every warm water fish you can catch in Colorado on it. It's great for trout. Had a chance to use it in the salt more last couple years, and had some guys here in the shop also fish it for inshore fish in the salt, and it's got everything from stripers, blues, snook, reds, flounder, you name it. So doesn't foul, rides hook up. It's a great little fly. Give it a try.